A guy named Soto Wolff says that Mercedes is working hard to fix the problems with their race car called the W13. He says the car's basic design will completely change in 2023, so the new car called W14 will look totally different. Mercedes only has 3 races left to avoid having their first year without winning in 11 years. They've been having trouble keeping up with Ferrari and Red Bull because of new racing rules that started in 2022. But the team has gotten better during the season and is getting closer to the leaders. Do you think Mercedes will get back to the front of the racing pack in 2023? Will they be able to fight Red Bull and Ferrari for the championship? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Lewis Hamilton almost won the US Grand Prix on Sunday, thanks partly to the W13 car's final upgrade package for the season. He came in second place after losing the lead with 7 laps left to go. Mercedes has said clearly that the late season updates they're making are meant to help figure out the direction for their 2023 car. This was expected to change when they found problems with this year's design. Wolff said the DNA of the car is going to change for next year, that's for sure. It doesn't necessarily mean that the outside bodywork will look very different, but certainly what makes up the DNA of the car, the basic structure of the car, will change for next year. Mercedes had trouble early in the season with the bouncing, a problem on the W13 car. But then they discovered a deeper problem that was built into the design after their first big update at the Spanish Grand Prix in May. Max Verstappen easily passed Lewis Hamilton to take the lead in Sunday's race at the Circuit of the Americas. This showed the team's ongoing problem: they still can't match Red Bull's straight-line speed throughout the year. After the race, Hamilton said Verstappen's lead on the straights was worth noting, but he thought Mercedes had made progress in the right direction. He said, "I think when they use DRS, they're like 35 km/h faster than us. If we're behind them, we're like 22,000 faster, I think it is, with DRS on the back straight. So we came from a long way back. But even without the DRS, I think there's still something like 8 km/h up on us. So we've got a lot of time being lost on the straight, probably for tenths at least a lap. So we've got some improvements to make for next year's car." After Red Bull won the Constructors' title on Sunday, Mercedes will get to use more wind tunnel time for aerodynamic development in 2023. Mercedes would have 14% more wind tunnel time than Red Bull next year if they finish third in the standings. Wolff thought this may be a good step from that point. It was a big disadvantage so far because all of 2021 they were the leading team, and then they won the Constructors' Championship, he explained. So all of the first half of 2022 we had 7% less wind tunnel time than the 18 months before of Red Bull, and much less than Ferrari. Now it swings the other way around. Compared to Red Bull, we're going to have 14% more if we finish third. So that overtime is exactly what the regulations were designed for, to give us the potential to eat the advantage out, to claw it back. That number might even go up if Red Bull gets a wind tunnel penalty for spending too much money. But let's go back to Hamilton. Looking back at the race, yes, he lost out to a better Red Bull, but the straight speed wasn't the only problem. After the race, Hamilton admitted that the W13 is having more problems than just a lack of speed on the straights. The W13 has been one of Mercedes' most difficult cars to drive since they came back to the racing grid in 2010. It is the car that has suffered the most from the bouncing problem, which has been an unexpected result of the 2022 regulations. This has put an end to their 8-year reign as Constructors' World Champions. Max Verstappen's victory at the US Grand Prix and other victories this season show that the car has also struggled with a lack of straight-line speed. With fewer than 10 laps left, Lewis Hamilton was forced to give up his lead over Verstappen despite his best efforts. This was because of the RB18's greater speed. But just minutes before the race, Mercedes mechanics could be seen urgently working on Hamilton's car's brakes up front. Later it was revealed that the crew had to change his braking parts, including calipers and pads, as soon as they noticed an imbalance in the front brake performance. Hamilton talked about how the team had been dealing with brake separation throughout most of the season in his post-race interview with the media. "We've had problems with our brakes all year, just with separation basically," Hamilton said. "When you hit the brake, instead of both fronts doing the same amount of work, either the left one does more or the right one does more, because one that gets more temperature than the other. We had a temperature split, which was basically the left one wasn't really working, so they had to change the brakes. The 2022 cars have 18-inch tires to make them more like road cars, along with depending more on the floor to provide down." According to Hamilton, the knock-on effect required the team to change their brake drums, which is the root of the problem. "It's something we've seen a lot through the year with these new bigger drums," he explained. "So it's something we're working on fixing. For now, it seems like Mercedes can't catch a break with the W13. Every time they seem to come close to unlocking some performance, another problem shows up." But with 3 races left in 2022, Martin Brundle thinks Lewis Hamilton can win a Grand Prix. The British driver nearly got his first victory of the campaign in the US, but he had to beat Max Verstappen after the passing of Red Bull co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz. Verstappen achieved an emotional victory in Texas, but it was not easy. After a terrible pit stop, Hamilton held the lead in the Grand Prix for a considerable amount of time. Hamilton used a harder tire compound than Verstappen, who was equally determined to win the race for the late Mercedes. In the final laps, Verstappen outran his British competitor by a wide margin. Hamilton was forced to accept second place. The Mercedes W13's performance in Austin, according to Brundle's piece for Sky Sports F1, should be positive for the German manufacturer. The latest updates at least give both drivers and the team hope for a glorious and long-awaited late-season victory. Brundle writes that the remaining races on the calendar are Mexico, Brazil with a sprint race, and Abu Dhabi, and to accomplish that, the team will use the front wing package that caused controversy at the most recent race in Austin, according to trackside engineering director Andrew Shavlin. This weekend at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, Mercedes will race both of its cars with its controversial new front wing package. The front wing kit sparked questions about whether it was legal when it was on show in the pit lane over the weekend because of the winglets attached to the flap parts. The fact that the team had just one type of wing and no spare, according to trackside engineering director Andrew Shavlin, is why it wasn't run in Austin. Mercedes decided to keep it on display in the pit lane rather than take the chance that it might be damaged during qualifying and require a specification change in park firm, which would have resulted in a grid drop. The reason we didn't run it in Austin was because we only had one of those parts. So if we damaged it during qualifying, it would have meant the car that damaged the wing had to start from the back, confirmed Shavlin in the team's post-race debrief video. Also, with a very busy program, we had the tire test in FP2. We didn't actually have the time to evaluate. We have more of those parts available in Mexico. We'll run that on the Friday. We'll check if it's all working as expected. And the plan at this stage is to race that wing. The front wing was one of the final significant improvements Mercedes made to the W13, and according to technical director Mike Elliott, it takes advantage of a crucial section of the rules that's currently under discussion with the FIA. I think there's fuss about it because in the regulations it talks about the primary use being for mechanical or measurement purposes, Elliott told the media. Clearly there's a secondary benefit of an aerodynamic design that's in there as well. We will decide whether we want to argue that one or not. It's actually not worth a huge amount. The detail looks interesting, but it's not the big thing on the front wing. The FIA first claimed that the design was approved as lawful after the team went through the standard review process of submitting their CAD drawings. Elliott clarifies that the disagreement stems from the precise language of the legislation as it relates to the design. Although he initially didn't expect that the team would challenge it, we go through a CAD review process with the FIA before we come to the circuit. That happens all the time. It was something that was seen there, and then they came back and said, we're not so sure about this. So that process I think works. If you look at the regulations, there are about 40 instances in the regulations of sole purpose, and in this case it doesn't say sole purpose, it says primary purpose, referring to the design. I think there's an argument to be had. Whether we want to have it is another question. Shavlin's confirmation that they will run the device specification in Mexico suggests that Mercedes believes they have a valid point to make. Do you think the new front wing package is legal? Should Mercedes be allowed to drive with a new front wing that clearly changes the aerodynamics in a way that wasn't intended by the regulations? Let us know your thoughts in